Greetings, beloved ones, and welcome to this 5th class on understanding energies, the process of purification. We have moved to the last 3 topics that are under the practice of purification. And in the 3rd and 4th class, I described some of the principles of practice. So in this last class, I'm going to talk to you about the remaining 3 principles. There are 7. This is number 5, 6, and 7. And for those of you who might wish to review anything that I've said or that others have shared, there will be both a recording made available at some time in the future, and there will also be a paperback adapted version of these talks, not the exact verbatim talk, but an adaptation, because the principles that have been described here are important for anyone to know about their inner life. So that's for the future. But for tonight, I'm going to do what I've done before, which is to break down each of the principles, or subsidiary principles, I'm calling them, of the practice of purification. And we will have a short conversation following each one, and then at the end we'll see how much time we have left. But this is our last class, so I'm determined to get through all 3 remaining principles, so you have them. The first one, which is number 5, has to do with guidance. Divine guidance, understanding guidance, asking for guidance, and trusting guidance. In a way, you could say that what I would like you to know is that there's a world of guidance from the divine that's available to you, and that it takes many forms and can take many forms. So it's important that you have a broad perspective of what's possible, not a narrow perspective. Now, many people, especially along the earlier stages of purification or of the spiritual path, think that guidance comes in words, or that if you ask a question, that you'll get an answer, hopefully, in words. And sometimes that happens, but that's not really the main event. The main event is not the words you hear, but the truth that your heart knows, whatever that truth is, and however it's given to you. You see, we divide up, and again, this is on a certain portion of the spiritual path, we divide up guidance in our minds as coming from inside or outside. And we think we're being told this, or something is being said to us, or we're being advised this. And we try to get clear about the concept or what the words are. But and that's not wrong, but there's a big difference between looking for something that has a verbal content and looking into your own heart to feel, how am I being guided through my heart? How is it being shown to me where I need to go, what I need to be doing? The way of guidance is a progression. The more you are attuned to the divine current of divine will, the more seamless it is. So as you go along, there's no longer an inside or an outside, or words or not words. The more you go along with a sense of surrender, love, humility, these are 3 important parts. The more you have surrender, love, humility in relation to the divine, the more you can be certain that your heart is going to be leading you in the direction of truth. Before then, and especially if your involvement with your spiritual pursuits is only partial, you're not sure of it, you're not sure where it's going to take you, you're not sure what you want, then you may feel a reluctance to trust your heart. You may feel, well, how do I know that my heart isn't telling me what my ego wants rather than what the divine wants? And that's not an uncommon question. That's a common question. How do I know if I listen to my heart that I'm hearing something that's truthful from the divine? So I want to tell you about these different kinds of guidance and how you know. The more you surrender, the more you know. The more you are giving yourself to the divine will, and the more you are seeking to turn over your will, the more you know that your heart is giving you a representation of truth. So the certainty of guidance, when it's not an actual message and words that you can pinpoint, that comes through your body or your heart or your sense of rightness, those are all different ways of describing how do I know I'm being guided. I said, my body knows, my body's telling me go here, or my heart knows I feel a strong calling to be here or to do this, or I give myself to the divine, and therefore I assume, because I'm not holding anything back, that what comes to me is going to be from the divine. So you know, because of your humility and your surrender, that your heart is giving you a picture of truth. The world of guidance, divine guidance, is a world multidimensional, multi-level, from all kinds of layers of a hierarchy of those who advise and guide and protect and uphold the earth and her inhabitants. You have guidance from the source of life, which is your own inner being. Your own inner being is the source of life, is the one, the unity. So you have guidance from that, which you may or may not feel access to. You have guidance from specific areas of that spiritual hierarchy that your soul is more attuned to. You may have guidance from native elders. You may have guidance from aspects of nature. You may have guidance from those of the light. You may have guidance from the angelic kingdom. You can look into the picture of the spiritual universe, and there are guides expressing as the guides for the earth from all kinds of dimensions and levels. And it doesn't matter where this comes from. Well, yes and no. What it matters is how true something feels to you. How true something feels to you, generally speaking, means how close does it resemble your experience that it's coming from the source. Now, that may not be that you know that because something announces itself to you, but the inner feeling of certainty is that whatever is coming to you is coming from the source, however it represents itself. There are problems, limitations that people who are beginning a spiritual journey go through about guidance. Some people confuse guidance with signs, and guidance is not signs. Signs are aspects of time-space synchronicity that can be interpreted in certain ways that make you feel like you're being guided, but somebody else can have the same event occur and can interpret it differently, so that same sign can be open to different interpretations. Guidance corresponds to the truth of your soul, connected with the source of life. However that represents itself to you, that's what the divine guidance is. So I've spoken about how you give yourself to the divine as being an aspect of how certain you can be about what comes to you. And this is important because if you ask for guidance about a specific problem or topic or relationship or something about yourself or your health or finances, you have to have enough trust to be willing to hear or know what the response of the universe is going to be. You have to have enough willingness to not prejudge what you're going to be guided with. And if you don't, if your receptivity is conditional, which is to say, I don't want to hear this, I only want to hear this. And if I hear this, I'm not going to be sure that that's what it is, that it's guidance. But if I hear this, then I'll know that I'm being guided. In other words, you're planting the divine guidance beneath the will of your ego, qualifying it, making it conditional so that you only hear or are only willing to hear what you want to hear. Now, that is not true of everybody, but it's true some of the time about things that we care a great deal about, that we are not entirely open to guidance, even though we think we are, because we don't want to hear something that negates what our ego self wishes to believe. So that's something to be watchful about. And again, that ego trap of hearing in a qualified way only what you want to hear comes about because of incomplete surrender. So you see, those two things go in tandem. The way you receive guidance and the degree to which you're actually willing to and capable of surrendering your will, those two things go together. Like many other things along a spiritual path, there's a continuum of joining with divine guidance so that it no longer feels separate from you, but it feels like your own self. There's a continuum. The more you are joined with the source of the guidance, the more it corresponds to breathing. It doesn't correspond to anything happening to you. It infuses your life force or your breath, and it's not separate from it. So that in your breath or in your movement through life, it would be as if your body knew where to go because it was so connected with divine mind that there was nothing that your conscious mind had to know at all. It's just that you were seamlessly joined with the source. And that would be the way of embodying divine guidance in the most complete form, that it isn't really guidance, it's breath. It's really just living. It's just being. It's not something that's external. So as you go along with your spiritual practice and your spiritual path, that joining and that surrender, which allows for more joining, makes the guidance that you can receive more seamlessly part of your whole being. And that becomes more and more not just guidance, but your life. So as you go through your life, it's no longer really about guidance at all. It's about life. Your life is guidance. Guidance is your life. It's not something that happens to you. You become it. Your life is it. And that's the progression of surrender. Surrender takes you from feeling separate from the divine source that's guiding you to feeling joined with the divine source that's guiding you, so that you and it are one, and you and it are living your life, and everything flows from the same source. That would be the goal of an embodied life. Everything flows from the same source without any inhibition, without any controversy with what your ego is trying to do. At the end of that spectrum, the ego is no longer involved with trying to do anything because it's gotten very quiet and it's waiting for its turn to have a place where it's useful, and beyond that, it's not in charge. The divine current, the divine breath is in charge. So guidance becomes life. Many, many people are somewhere along the way of that continuum. And so the practice of asking for guidance has to include, may I know how to receive what I am given. May my heart be humble. May my surrender be more complete. It has to be that that's implicitly part of the asking, because that is going to enable you to have more truth, more access to truth. I would like to say, in completing these thoughts about divine guidance, that there have been beings called by different names from time immemorial who have been guiding the Earth's evolution throughout time. These beings are not living on the Earth, they're living in other dimensions. They are called by many different names, and they are guardians of the Earth. They are servants or in service to the source of life. They are not separate beings with separate egos. They are aspects of the divine in spirit that have taken on this area of responsibility to guide the Earth through her evolution into higher consciousness. And they have been present since the beginning of the Earth's being inhabited by human beings and by other inhabitants that are non-human. So if you ever have a doubt about whether you are capable of being guided, if you ever have a doubt about whether you are worthy of being guided, or if you ever have a doubt that you don't know how to be guided, it's already in you. You're already being guided. The feeling has to be, where can I discover that's what's already in me? And for that, to discover what's already happening, that you're already being guided, you have to be able to do what I was saying, to surrender more so that your ego will is more subservient to divine will, and so that you can trust your heart. You can trust your heart to tell you when you sincerely and truly ask it to tell you, what am I meant to do, or how can I serve in a more complete way, which are both parts of the same thing. Beyond the ego is serving more than yourself. That what will come to you is real. You need to also trust your heart in addition to trusting the source of the guidance. So, beloved ones, this gift of being human is yours already. You didn't do anything to deserve it except to be born. You didn't do anything to earn it except to breathe. Your breath is the source of the guidance. Ultimately, it's the life of the source of life that is guiding you through all situations, whether you feel it to be true or not. The life of the source of life is guiding you even now, even in this moment. And the more you can open yourself to that source, the more the actual way of being guided in its specificity can become accessible to you. May you find your own way with this, beloved ones, and may you know beyond doubt that you are never alone in this universe that is full of divine helpers, beings, and guides. May you be blessed with this knowledge and this experience. Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Namaha. I bow to the Supreme Being that lives within all. Namaskar. Greetings, beloved ones. Earlier this evening, I spoke to you about principle number 5, related to the practice of purification. And that subject had to do with accessing divine guidance and knowing that the guidance that you are seeking is already within you, that it comes from the source of life, and it comes through multiple levels through which that source is expressed. It's already in you. In this section, I want to talk with you about something that is a very important part of spiritual practice, and also for many people, something that's very challenging. It has to do with trust and letting go of outcomes. The phrase letting go of outcomes is the one I want to focus on. What does letting go of outcomes have to do with trust? How does it apply to your life? There is an idea that we hold as we develop spiritually, that life is meaningful, intrinsically meaningful, that it comes from a sacred source, and that we have a responsibility to interact with it as fully as possible. We don't always think that, but the sense of responsibility towards the sacredness of life increases the more you develop in a sense as a spiritual being. So if life is sacred and you are interacting with it at all times, and you have experiences that are pleasurable and you have experiences that are painful, and you have love and you have rejection and you have anxiety and you have different things happening to you that are still in a process of healing, how do you engage with life in the most sacred way, given the fact that you're not in control of life? You are not going to be able to manufacture a life that works out to be easy for you or the way you want it to be in all respects. It's not possible, because life is larger than anything that you can plan from your conscious self. It's larger than that. So there is an attitude that one develops of trust, and the trust is in the goodness of life, or the goodness of the divine expressing through life. This is not technique. This is not something that somebody tells you how to do. It is something that grows within you as the energy of your deeper being, your soul energy, acquires more and more space. Then that energy conveys to your conscious mind, no matter what happens to me, I'm safe. No matter what happens to me, I can trust life. No matter what happens to me, I believe in the goodness of life because I believe in the divine source behind life. So as you grow spiritually, or in the truth of your own sacred nature, this trust in the divine interacting or being present in all aspects of life grows organically. You might wish it would grow faster. You might wish you had more support for being trusting, because sometimes holding on to trust or developing trust is not an easy thing to do because of our past experiences in a historical sense with mistrust. So most human beings are trying to heal past experiences with mistrust. But the progression is one of life becoming more trustworthy because of the presence of the divine within it, which means that you don't have to control outcomes of what happens to you. If you wish for something, if you would like an event to happen, whether, say, it's a financial event, so you would have more money so you wouldn't have to worry about it, or you'd have more love so you wouldn't have to feel so lonely, or you'd have a community, or you'd be able to do something that your heart has desired for a long time. You can wish for these things. You have a natural heart desire to express in certain ways that's unique to you. So you can wish for things. But the divine within you says, I hold these wishes within the umbrella or the frame of my supreme desire to let the divine guide my life. This is my supreme desire. So I don't have to be without wishes, but I have to place all my wishes within what's the highest priority, which is the dedication to live a sacred life, which is a life guided by the divine within me. As you reach that conclusion or that willingness, then whatever happens to you can be absorbed, can be accepted, because the presence or the sense of divine goodness doesn't leave you because something is painful. You don't have to wish that it be painful. You can wish that it not be painful. That's part of being human and having a body, to wish that something is not painful. But you can hold even pain and difficulty, yours or your loved ones, within the overall embrace of divine goodness. And in that sense, you can trust the divine no matter what the outcome of an event is, or a pursuit is, or a period of waiting is, or your health is, or anything. Your trust no longer is connected with the outcome of what somebody else would think, well, this is a good thing to happen. You've left the criterion of good and bad sufficiently so that you say, may the divine bring to me whatever it is that is the best or the highest good for me. And you acknowledge that you're not in charge of it. So that's the way of letting go of outcomes. You are no longer attached to your wishes in the same way from the past. You are having them because they are coming from your desire to express as a being, but you are giving the wishes the space to live within the overall envelope of divine grace and divine will, which is, for the most part, unknown to you. It could be known in part, but for the most part, mostly we go through life not knowing what the outcome of things will be. Sometimes we do know, but when we do know what the outcome will be, it's because we have been guided to know that based on our soul's purpose, that it's been important to have a vision of the future, say, where you do know what the outcome will be. But for the most part, we don't know what the outcome will be. Here is the struggle that many of us, because of our history of not feeling entirely joined with our own divine being or any other aspect of the divine, are used to taking care of ourselves and trusting only what we can figure out, work out, control, manipulate, have access to. We have learned how to do that because of the state of separation, the state in which we felt alone. And so in that state, the ego state, of course you want to have an outcome guaranteed. Of course you don't want to love somebody who's going to not love you back. Of course you want to be careful about a risk that you might take that might not work out. Of course, because you are in that portion of yourself saying, the only one I can trust is me, and I have to know how things are going to work out in order to feel safe in the world. That's history. That's the reason that the ego came into being. When you move towards the organization of your psyche according to the soul, this shifts into a whole different frame of reference, where the safety of your life is not determined by the outcome of events. The safety of your life is determined by an inner state of safety because of your relationship with the divine and divine goodness. So the outcome of an event or events, plural, can be what they are, but the attachment or the infusion of your own soul gives you the confidence that no matter what happens to me, I am safe, because it's not outside of me, it's inside of me. There is, beloveds, a struggle that goes on for many people who engage in the practice of purification to let go of control, to let go of outcomes, because the past history is having an argument with the present. The past history is saying, I want to be in control so I know how it's going to work out. And the present is saying, thy will be done. And these two parts haven't gotten together yet. So there's often a vacillation back and forth between trust and mistrust, and control and letting go of control. And I don't mean just behavior. I'm talking about feeling safe. I'm talking about the inner feeling of peace that you might have, even if things are not going the way that you would, in some part of yourself, wish them to go. That's what letting go of outcomes is about, that your trust is not dependent on how things turn out. Doesn't mean you wouldn't have a preference. It means you're not attached to that as the sole criteria of whether something is good. The goodness comes from within. It comes from trusting the divine in life. You who are listening to me might think about this in relation to your own struggles, because it is a very common struggle to want to condition one's risk-taking in order to be sure of what the outcome is going to be. And it's not because your own self doesn't know that some direction you might take is good for you. It's not that. You might know that some decision you might make is good for your overall being. It feels good, you've wanted it, you feel lined up with it, you might know that. But you stop yourself from doing it, whatever it is, because you don't know if it's going to turn out all right. You're not trusting your inner self, your heart. You're trusting the outcome. You're making your decision making based on the outcome. And that's a different way of being than the trust that comes from inside. The real trust in a spiritual life doesn't depend on how things turn out. It depends on your relationship with life. And in some measure, it depends on, more than anything else, on integrity. You know, if you are going through life being as faithful as you can be in your own awareness to doing what you feel is being asked of you in the sacred sense, in the divine sense, you may not be doing it perfectly because you don't know exactly what's being asked, but you're doing the best you can. If you are doing that, then you are capable of trusting yourself, because you have given yourself to that way of being where you are trying to attune continually to what the divine is asking of you. If you're doing that, then you have to turn inward for trust, not outward. Outward is the past history of your ego self, wanting to have safety guaranteed. Inward is the state of integrity that says, I am willing to put my life in divine hands. I am willing to trust life because I believe in its essential goodness. That's an inner decision. It's not based on something that's going to happen. So when you witness this struggle inside you, no matter around what area it may occur, and the need to be in control arises, I hope you won't get mad at yourself. I hope you won't have a big explosion of frustration, because here it's arising again. You're mistrustful, and where is your trust, and all of that we do on a spiritual path to feel like we're not making enough progress. No, it's not like that. This issue of mistrust and trust is a very, very big transition that human beings go through over lifetimes, many lifetimes usually, to be able to feel that you are no longer attached to the outcome of how things turn out, means that your sense of depth of connection with the divine has gotten progressively stronger so that you can do that. Before that happens, you can struggle, and you have to be patient with your own struggle, You have to be compassionate towards your own struggle and your own need to be in control. It's not the thing that you want to do, but it's the thing that you have been doing. So you have to be patient with that and pray for the willingness to trust life and your own choices beyond the criteria of how things turn out. If you are doing and being as true to yourself as you can possibly be, with the sense that you're going in the direction that your heart or your being is telling you to go in, then you have to let go of everything else. Then that's the main thing. I am here to express my own being as I am feeling it experientially, and I am doing the best I can to do that. That's all you can do. And everything else has to be let go of. That has to do with faithfulness to yourself. Yourself being your divine self, not your ego self. I am being faithful to the self within me and doing the best I can to go through life in right relationship with that inner divine. And then I try to let go of outcomes. And if I'm in a struggle, then I try to be compassionate with my own struggle so that I can let the time and experience work these things out between the two parts of me, the one from the past that is mistrustful and the one from the present that is trying to trust and is having a struggle. That's the one that you have to be patient with, that struggle, that passage in time between one version of reality and another. May you be patient, beloved ones, with your own journey, which has to involve and does involve these movements of healing, from mistrust to trust, and from the absence of self-awareness in whatever degree to a deep sense of integrity, so that you're lined up with your own deeper being in all that you do. That's the passage. You become yourself, and in becoming yourself, you become one with the divine. There's no separation then, but it is a passage, and you need to be patient with whatever it is that it takes you, with however long it takes you. May you be blessed. May you be patient. May you be willing to trust the goodness of the divine and to let go of outcomes as that may be possible. Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Namaha. I bow to the Supreme Being that lives within all. Namaskar. Greetings, beloved ones, and welcome again to our 5th class on understanding energies, the process of purification. Earlier this evening, I spoke about several principles that have to do with the practice of purification. There are 7 of them, and this evening I spoke about principle number 5 and 6, which had to do with divine guidance, principle number 5, and letting go of outcomes, principle number 6. And now I reach the final principle that I want to convey to you. And that has to do with looking at purification through the lens of lifetimes. Now, what could that possibly mean? We, as human beings, identify ourselves, for the most part, with one lifetime. We're made to do that. A veil of forgetting, for the most part, not completely, but for the most part, drops down around our consciousness as we incarnate, so that we don't remember other lifetimes, whether we think of them as past lifetimes or simultaneous lifetimes, we don't remember them. The veil of forgetting drops down. But we gain experience as souls in form through each embodiment that we encounter. And for the most part, it's not possible to know how many lifetimes you've had on the earth being your home in consecutive lifetimes, your home. You don't go to another evolutionary stream. Once you're here, you're here. So you don't know how many lifetimes you've had. Mostly you don't know what you've done or who you've been. We hear about things and we have dreams sometimes, and sometimes we have intuitions about things, but there's a lot of mystery about this. And for this reason, it's difficult when you look at the process of purification to understand that what you're purifying today is all your other lifetimes, because everything that was in you that remains is in you today. So, depending on how much remains to be healed, the willingness to make a commitment to the process of purification, which involves a willingness to be self-aware, to take responsibility in a very intentional way for your own actions and thoughts and feelings, to release blaming others and to look internally to see what you were responsible for in life. Well, these things are often difficult for people because there are all kinds of energies floating around from the past that create fear, primarily fear, unsafety, mistrust. And so the progression towards a goal, let's say the goal of feeling unconditional love, or the goal of feeling joyful about being alive, or the goal of feeling peace no matter what the circumstance of your life. Those would be the goals. And then your own conscious mind would say, well, if those are my goals, why is it so hard for me to do? Why is it so hard for me to feel peaceful when I'm trying to be peaceful? I'm doing my spiritual practice. Or another version would be, I want to be more loving, but I find that I'm just irritable a lot of the time. I don't want to be irritable, but I'm irritable. And so we come to these contradictions in ourselves between the way we would like to be and the way we actually are. And that happens with almost everybody because you are in the process of healing some things. The lens of lifetimes means that you understand that the difficulty that most people encounter occurs because the taproot of the difficulty is not in this lifetime. It occurred a long time ago and has been recycling through various embodiments as an issue or a focus that's in need of healing. Maybe it happened 1,000 years ago. Maybe it happened in another age when you were here during another epoch on the earth. You don't know that, and in a way it doesn't matter. What matters is that you know that when something seems intractable to heal, or it seems like it takes a long time, or you're in conflict about it, which seems to not be penetrable, the reason that that is taking a long time is because you're healing the history of that conflict through lifetimes. All of them together are funneling into the present. If you have chosen to work on a certain issue, there are issues that are postponed to other lifetimes, so you're not working on every issue in every lifetime. But if you have chosen to learn about a certain aspect of yourself and you're finding it difficult to do, the reason it's difficult is because it's not grounded in this lifetime. It's grounded in all the others put together. and you are getting the residue of what's left in you currently that is in need of healing related to that specific issue. So the lens of lifetimes, or the overview, is important in order to understand why things take time. Today, in this time and space that we are inhabiting, the presence of spiritual light on the earth is accelerating the process of purification for everybody. Doesn't matter whether you're having a conscious spiritual life or you're not, the process of purification, which involves the healing of unhealed issues, is coming up because of the time that we're living in. But what that means, if you are conscious of what's going on inside of you, and if you are taking part in the process of purification, is that more inflow from the past is happening, more of everything that needs healing is happening around a particular issue. So it creates a great deal of intensity, and it creates a great deal of drama very often, because there's a struggle to overcome something that seems to have a mind of its own and doesn't want to be overcome. But it doesn't really have a mind of its own. It's just that it's been with you for so many lifetimes that it's rooted in your body. It's no longer rooted in your mind. Your mind may want to be free of a particular issue. Let's say to have destructive relationships, or to get involved with people who hurt you, or to feel unworthy and to feel a sense of personal inadequacy, or to feel fear about what others might do to you. I mean, I could name 100 things that are common fears that people have, because they are common. The point here is that the reason they're not easy to overcome, even when you would say to yourself, why can't I get my act together and just get past this? I'm sure that you have said that about something in your life, asking yourself, why is this so hard for me to do? It doesn't seem like it should be so hard. The reason is because the problem has been with you for such a long time. It's infused into your physical cellular structure. And so the source of the energy which is fueling the problem is not in your conscious mind, it's in your body. And it has to take its time, with the help of the energy of light, to work itself out of your body. Your conscious mind can, of course, help it. You can try in your own way to separate the identity you have today from the identity you had in the past. You can, as best you are able to, say, this is what I'm feeling. It doesn't make any sense. This is not what's happening in this lifetime, but I'm feeling it, and I don't want to be feeling it. So then you have to accept the fact that you're feeling something from the past, and it's with you, and it's going to be with you until it stops being with you. But you don't have to identify with it completely, because you know it's not this lifetime. That's the advantage of having an overview, is that you can be more compassionate with yourself about why difficulties continue. And you can also see that the nucleus of the problem in this lifetime is not that the feelings from the past are occurring, but the issue is, how do I separate from them? That's the main issue. I'm having these feelings, but they're not me. They're not me now. Maybe they were me in the past, but they're not me now. The perspective of lifetimes also has another great advantage besides this one of compassion and understanding why certain issues seem intractable. And that is that hopefully we are, as human beings, less likely to get stuck with labels about ourselves. We get comforted by thinking we are a certain kind of person. I'm a this, I'm a that. I'm a person who doesn't like groups of people. I'm a person who's afraid of heights. I'm a person who doesn't know how to speak well. All these things that we tell ourselves about ourselves. We have labels, all kinds of labels. But if you think if you think on the soul level about yourself, you're not that. You just happen to be that right now. You're not that. You're not a man or a woman. You're both. You are both. Everybody's both. Everybody's everything. Really. You are everything. You're in everything. So the perspective of lifetimes also gives you, when you can really feel it, the liberty to not attach yourself to an I am statement about who you are in that labeling way. Because you're not. You were not that, you are not that, and you won't be that. You're something else. And so that perspective gives you the view from your soul, instead of identifying with this current personality of whatever your limitations are, your fears are, your projects are, your goals are. That's just a blip in time. It's just a blip in time. Now, the way of dealing with this issue, as I said, is compassion, to be patient with things that seem intractable. But the other way, besides that, is to give everything to God, is to not assume that you know anything about yourself, is to assume that your identity is completely in flux as you give yourself to the divine, and you want to be shown who you are. Basically, you are surrendering your entitlement to have an identity. You give it away, and you say with sincerity, show me who I am, whatever that will be. I want in this lifetime to be shown who I am, assuming that your own view is a narrow view. You let it be. Let it be that you don't know who you are, that you have to be shown. And so when you make that kind of consent to not have to be attached to your own present view of yourself, you can have the willingness to be shown, but you have to let go of what you're holding on to. I'm this kind of a person. Well, you are if you believe that. You are what you believe. But if your identity is fluid and you don't have to be a this, and you can let the divine define you, well, then maybe you're not this kind of a person. Maybe you're another kind of person. So surprising things can happen when you have the perspective of lifetimes and you know that this you that you are in this lifetime is only a moment in time. Most importantly, beloveds, is to be very patient with yourself and to be non-critical because you think you should have been able to do something by now. That attitude of I think I should have been able to do it by now is not respectful and honoring of how long you have been a soul, what struggles you have been through, what hardships you have taken on, and what the level of healing is that you are presently endeavoring to engage in. If you could have that attitude, you could relax more around everything that you presently experience as a limitation. I wish that for you. I wish that for all beings, that you could know yourself to be more than this lifetime, and that you can especially forgive anything that is not moving in you as fast as you would like. Because in the slowness, in the waiting, in the difficulty of working something out, healing of everything that's gone before is happening during that period of time of waiting. Please think of that for your own blessed sake, so that you can feel at peace with whatever length of time these issues will need to work themselves out. Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Namaha. I bow to the Supreme Being that lives within all. Thank you for joining me with this class series on understanding energies, the process of purification. May your days and your life be blessed with increasing awareness of who you are and what you belong to in this most sacred universe. Namaskar.